Welcome to uh, second class of our Sunday school. I don't know how to even call it. This class, baptism, new belief. We have seekers and we have believers, new and old, among us. So let's just call it a Sunday class. Okay. All right. Can everybody see the screen? Not yet. Okay. I can see it. I don't think. Screen two. Okay. And presentation. Okay. All right. All right. Before we start, why don't we pray? Pray. Give a pray to the Lord. Let's pray together. Dear Father, thank you for your grace, and thank you for the salvation in your Son, Jesus Christ. And we also thank you for these precious children. They are all gifts from you to our families. And you also give us the responsibility to raise them in the Lord so that they can work in your path for the rest of their lives. Oh Lord, please be with us and help us through today's lesson so that we can confirm and verify the truth in the Bible by looking at the scientific evidence from history and archaeology, because your truth is universal. Be with us, help us. In Jesus' name we pray. All right. So today's lesson 2, called Origin of Species. Does that title sound familiar to you? Yes. Yes, exactly. We are going to talk about his book today, and also more importantly, by talking about why he was wrong, we can confirm the truth in the Bible. All right, anybody can tell me what you learned from last lesson? Anything you can remember? Yes? Yes, evolution is impossible. Human beings could not have been evolved from so-called lower forms of life. All right, so today's lesson is a continuation of the same theme. Basically, we are going to take 3 steps to confirm the Bible by looking at evidence from biology, from archaeology, etc. So the first step is to establish that nature or natural science supports the existence of a creator, right? That is the first step. We are still at this step, lesson 1 and lesson 2, probably lesson 3, maybe a couple of more lessons. And after the first step, to confirm that there is a creator, the next step is to ask whether the creator is the God described in the Bible. How do you do that? How do you use evidence from history and archaeology, for example, to show that the Bible is accurate and the God in the Bible is the creator, that we will show that really exists. And the third step is to look at the prophecies in the Bible to support that the Bible was inspired by God. Why? Because many biblical prophecies were already fulfilled hundreds or even thousands of years later in human history. So proving that the Bible could not have been written with limited human wisdom. It must have been inspired by the Almighty and Almighty and omniscient God. All right, so these are the steps. This is the outline for our course, for our class. Natural history, natural science, history, and archaeology, and also the fulfillment of prophecies, they all confirm that the Bible is true and are reliable. Now, today we'll focus on evolution versus creation. So as Matthew just said, the famous Charles Darwin wrote a book on the origin of species, right? And today we'll compare what is taught in the Bible, creation versus evolution. And we're going to look at a bunch of scientific evidence to support our views. Hopefully, this lesson can be interesting, but in some places it might be a little bit difficult for you guys to understand, especially for you younger kids who haven't taken like biology AP classes. Okay. I'll try to make it easier for you to understand. So creation versus evolution. Regarding the origin of species, there are two explanations, right? How the living creatures, the living things came into being. There are two explanations. One is the theory of evolution represented by Darwin. Darwin was probably the famous one. There are other people who, advocate this theory as well, but he is the representative. If we think of evolution, we think of Charles Darwin. Of course, the other view of the origin of species is creationism, or creation taught by the Bible. So last week we talked about it is impossible to produce even one protein with one single function, let alone a living cell, through random accidental processes. Even you have all the matters of the entire universe, and you have infinite time, like 30 billion years, you still cannot produce, one single living organism or any part of it by random process. There must be design, right? Okay, but evolution holds the opposite view. Let's look at the tree. Sorry. So this is also, I think, most of you are probably also familiar with this evolution tree, right? The evolution point of view. If you look at the tree, at the bottom of the tree are those so-called lower forms of life, simpler organisms. And on the top of the tree, there are more complicated, living things like humans, those mammals and stuff. So this tree shows the evolutionary point of view, that is, the more complicated living things evolved from the simpler ones. So there are evolutions across species, right? And the key word here, which I highlighted in red, is this process of evolution is by random selection, or randomly and spontaneously, without anyone controlling it, anyone designing it. It just happens accidentally, and then we'll have simple bacteria first, and then more complicated things like fish or horses, or then human beings, right? So remember these keywords: random, spontaneous. That's the evolutionary point of view. Now, in the Bible, it is taught differently, right? We know that. Can someone read the Bible verses on the screen for us? Anyone? Genesis 1:1. Who wants to read it? Xiaomei, you want to read it? Go ahead. Anyone disagrees? You read it. Come on. Then why did you clap your hands? Go ahead. Okay. Someone else read 124? 124? Any volunteer? Okay, Ethan, go ahead. Okay, 25? Anybody? 25. Verse. Okay, go ahead. Matthew? Okay. Very good, very good. Thank you, guys. All right. Do you see any phrase or words being repeated? Yes. Go. According to its kind, according to their kind. How many times are they repeated? Yes. 5. Yes. 5. Their kinds, its kind, their kinds. All right. So in the Bible, we say if God says once, it's important. If he says it twice, it's very important. When he says it 5 times, what does it mean? It's absolutely yes, yes. He wants us to remember that, never forget that. Okay. Living creatures were created according to their kinds, after their kinds, So it means there is no evolution across species, across kinds. All right. So from the beginning, God created all kinds of living creatures to reproduce according to their kind. Horses beget horses, monkeys beget monkeys, and humans beget humans, right? But interestingly, last night when I was, I think, yes, was translating this, I put the Chinese into the Google translation, and it comes out with something like monkeys beget monkeys and human beings. No, no, I don't know how Google does it. It's definitely wrong. It's not not what I wanted, what I mean. So it should be humans beget humans, right? Not monkeys beget humans. All right. So I think this is a sign that Google is woke. All right. So if we want to disagree with something, right? If we want to argue against a point of view, we have to know what it is, right? First, we need to define what is evolution in order to see how it's wrong. All right, so we'll spend some time on that, on defining what evolution is. Evolution is not any change observed in the organism. Evolution is the process of randomly generating new genes, new structures, and new functions. We'll repeat these phrases, I don't know, 20 times or 30 times in the next slides. So be patient, but one thing we want to drive home to you or hammer into your mind is this definition of evolution. It's not any changes observed in organism. It's the process and random process of generating new genetic information, new structures in your body, and new functions of a living organism. Okay? All right, remember this. We'll repeat that. Okay, now here's an example. Look at this picture, right? Look at this picture. This is a big family with two parents, maybe 4 kids. I think 4 kids with and 1 friend. You know, one of them is not the family, but you can tell who are the kids, right? I think it's 2 girls, 2 boys, because they look somehow like their parents, right? This is common sense. Kids look like their parents. There are similarities between children and their parents, right? Right? How do we tell? Because they have a similar, for example, face shape, maybe you know, same hair color, skin color, similar mouth shape, etc. But can we say that the children have evolved from the parents because they are not exactly the same? There are some differences, you know, there are some changes, of course, when the children were born. They are not exactly 100% identical to their parents. Can we say that the children have evolved? No. According to the classic Darwinism definition, there is no evolution because what we just said, evolution is not any change observed in organism. It's the process of randomly generating new genes, new structures, and new functions. So can we say that the children have acquired new genes or new functions different from their parents, like they got wings? No, no. So by the Darwinism definition of evolution, no evolution happens between these 2 generations of human beings, right? Okay, let's move on. So let's look more into this. New functional structures are generated through random factors. That's by Darwinism. Darwinian evolution must be. Darwinism evolution must be. New functional structures, like bacteria that originally had no flagella grew flagella. Of course, this is a biological term, flagella. They are just hairs. They are hairs that bacteria have, you know, to help them swim in liquid, you know. And if that happened, we say evolution happened. For example, another example, a creature, planarian, originally it did not see, was not able to see, but now if it grew eyes, we say evolution happened because what? It acquired a new function of sight, right? But the thing is, um, does a new function come? I mean, happen or take place? We are looking at this case of flagella. No evolution has been observed because scientists, biologists discovered that bacilli, you know, anyway, it's just, I think it's a bacteria, another form, singular or plural, had flagella when they first saw flagellated bacilli under a microscope. So the first time they saw these things with the hair, the first time they saw it, they had hair. They still have hairs today. So no new function happened. By the way, the hair, the structure of the hair is very, very complicated. Actually, it's a mini engine. You can see on the picture on the left side. Extremely complicated. maybe more complicated than a car's engine. Yeah, it's how could it be evolved? We'll see. Okay, the origin of species, an evolutionary explanation. So genetic mutation means changes or variations, happens, and then it results in species variations, like different, for example, maybe different dogs. You guys have seen so many different subspecies of dogs, the big ones and smaller ones. That happens, and then plus natural selection, those not adapted to the environment, the subspecies and different kinds will be eliminated by natural selection, and then it results in the diversity of biological species on Earth that we can see today. That's their theory. So in all the biological evolutionary textbooks, we see three things, three preconditions, or three magic wands for evolution to happen. They must have these three, right? I don't know if some of you probably need to memorize these to pass exams. First, mutation, changes, right? Or random changes, uncontrolled changes, small spontaneous changes that happen in the organism, and then natural selection. The third one I should translate it into variation. Variation is like subspecies of dogs, different dogs. Okay, but none is evolution. None is evolution. Remember that. We'll repeat it again and again. Functional new structures in organism are generated by new genetic information. This is true. We acknowledge this. This is scientifically confirmed. This is not just evolutionary theory. Everybody knows that, and scientists confirm that. Functional new structures in organism must be generated by new genetic information. If there's no change in the gene, no new structures will happen. So based on what we've talked about, we can summarize how to know evolution happened. If variations, mutations, and natural selection are the mechanism that generate evolution, then they must be able to randomly produce new genes, new structures, and new functions. If variations, mutations, and natural selection cannot randomly produce new genes, new structures, and new functions, it means that evolution cannot occur. Anybody has any question? Yes, that's it. We'll get to that. Okay. Natural selection is simply the elimination of species that are not adapted into the environment. For example, if you get a fish out of water, it's a simple example. Out of water, it cannot live in the dry environment. It dies. This is a very, very simple, maybe not a very good one, example of natural selection. Okay. All right. Variation. Chickens. Right? No explanation needed here. Under the category, the kind of chicken, there are so many of them, different chickens, right? Horses, again, big horses, smaller horses, white ones, black ones, strong ones, maybe weaker ones, ponies, right? Horses vary greatly in size and color, but did not acquire new functional structures, right? Like, we don't see a flying horse, right? So within the family of horses, no horse can fly. That is, no horse has acquired new genetic information for it to become a flying horse. That's impossible. Variation, different subspecies of dogs. Can you name some of these dogs? Yeah. Oh, yes, for Chinese food. Yeah, of course. Right. And this is, okay, variation, different subspecies of dogs. There are more than 500 dog breeds, subspecies, right? I can only maybe name one or two. I know Chihuahua, and maybe like the one in this picture is a German Shepherd. Yes. Right. Almost all are the results of artificial selection and mating to allow the expression of recessive genes. That is, the variation of dogs has been the result of human intervention, because human raised dogs, breeds them. No new genetic information was added. Otherwise, we would see what blind dogs, maybe, or ambient dogs. Okay, dogs are species of wild wolves. Oh, what a surprise! So, how did it happen? Because the wolf's genes have enough genetic diversity. That is, there are many different parallel genes, which can produce a Great Dane that is larger than a typical wolf, or Labrador that's much tamer than a wolf, that is, well-tempered. And like a teacup dog, which is so small, you can hold it in your hands, right? The key point is that the genes that produce the various dog subspecies all come from the gene pool of wild wolves and do not acquire any new genetic information. As I said, if they require some new genetic information, maybe dogs would have started diving, deers, yes, or flying, or have 6 legs or something, but they remain to be dogs, right? So, do you guys still remember the classic Darwinism evolution definition of that evolution? Random process to produce, to acquire, right? New genetic information, new functional structures, right? We'll repeat that again and again. So according to the classic Darwinism evolution, evolution does not happen here. Evolution does not happen from the wild wolf to different kinds of dogs, because no new genetic information is acquired or new functional structure has happened. Correct? Do you guys understand this? Okay. Fish, yeah, fish is a different kind. Fish. So go ahead, complete your question. What about fish? Yeah, some fish can fly, but now the question is, did it evolve from a older fish which could not fly? That's the question. If and randomly, remember the keywords? Random, new structure, new function, right? So did an old species of fish that could not fly acquire the new genes to grow wings, and then grow wings randomly? Now, accidentally, it started flying. That's the question. If all that happened, if what I just described, everything that I said happened, yes, that was evolution, right? Okay, let's move on. We'll have more examples like that. Even Joseph's favorite topic, cats. He hates dogs. I know. No, the same thing. The same thing, right? Same thing. Cats were what are variation of wild cats. They were domesticated wild cats, and then through human intervention, breedings, with techniques from by human beings. Now we have so many subspecies of cats: Angora cats, Sphinx cats, ragdoll cats. But again, the question is, do they acquire any new genetic information? Have they developed any new structural functions? Gills. Yeah, that's the question. So always remember that. So now, variation has boundaries. It can only occur in existing species within the existing genetic information. So Canidae, that's the dog family, canine family, dog family, cannot what? Vary, cannot become, a dog cannot become a cat by variation. Okay, just like, yeah, gambling or card games, right? You can have a different combination of cards, right? But however varied your combination is, you cannot get mahjong cards, right? That's an example. However varied the dog family is, you cannot get a cat into the family, or a dog cannot become a cat. All right. So going back to the Bible, do you still remember each according to its kind? So the modern biological taxonomy, the the way of categorizing things, living things. We have family, genus, and species, right? You guys learn this from your biological textbook? Anyway, this is the way of categorizing living things. Family, genus, species. Kind in the Bible, in the verses that we just read, is equivalent to family in the animal kingdom, right? For example, the feline or cat family, the equinox horse family, right? They're different. Okay. Hybridization shows that animals belong to the same kind. What does it mean? Hybridization. That is some members of these families, some cats, although they are different in size, in looks, can have babies, have baby cats, kids. Okay, for example, what is this? It's called tigress. It's female. I put it the wrong word there. It should be tiger line. So this creature is a child of a tiger dad or lion mother. I don't know. I mean, have mixed it up, but the parents are one tiger and one lion. It's called tiger lion or lion tiger, right? How can they do that? How can they have a baby like that? because they are of the same family, right? Cat family. The same thing with the horse family. What is this? Zebra horse. This is a child of a horse and a zebra. Okay, how can they do that? Okay, have a baby like that? Because they belong to the same horse family, right? Okay, only animals of the same kind can mate and procreate, can have a baby like that. Question, can a dog and a cat have a baby? No. Why? Yes. Yes, so easy to understand. Each according to its kind. That's the boundary set by God between kinds of animals or families of animals. They don't cross, right? Okay, another example of variation. Ground finches of the Galapagos Islands. You guys know anything about the Galapagos Islands? The famous, yes, go ahead.
Like about the animals.
Yes, of course. But what about the finches? What are finches? Birds. Right, right. So, anyone knows anything about Darwin's on the origin of species? Knows this story, right? This is the basis of his theory, because he let me give you the background. In 1835, Charles Darwin went to the Galapagos Islands and found that some of the finches on the islands had thicker beaks, stronger, thicker beaks, while others had thinner or weaker beaks. Right? Look at a picture. Their beak shapes are different. Darwin also discovered that the environment and the food for the finches were different. So, for example, in some places where hard seeds were found, birds of thicker and stronger beaks were also found in that environment. So he concluded, based on these findings, Darwin had the hypothesis that these finches were a new species that evolved from a common ancestor, right? That's his hypothesis. So he used the word evolved or evolution there. Since then, the term evolution has become very, very popular. So if you know anything about evolution, you probably know this finch story. So how many species of finches do you see here? Do you see here? Species or kinds? 10, okay? Modern scientists divide them into 10 species and 5 genera. It sounds like these finches have evolved a lot, but their actual differences are very small, and they can all have babies. They can all mate and procreate, in other terms. Therefore, remember our definition of evolution? Remember what we talked about, the family? Yeah, and the families of species cannot crossbreed. But these birds can crossbreed. What does that mean? Yes, they are of the same family or the same kind. But but for Darwin, they were different species. But modern science knows better. After so many years of further research, let's see. You know, okay, let's look at some pictures first, and then we'll look at a video. Okay. Look at these two groups of animals. Dogs on the left and finches on the right. So, which group shows more differences among its members? Yes, yes, they are more different in colors, shapes, right, sizes, etc. than the birds. The birds on the right look more similar to each other. Now here's a video. It's in Chinese, but I'll translate it back into English and summarize it for you. Okay. Does it play even? Oh, okay, here.
另一个震惊的消息是关于达尔文的蜂鸟。新研究发现，1年的时间就足以让生物因着物竞天择的原则而改变。
加拉帕戈斯群岛上的蜂鸟迅速改变，但与物种无关，只是形态上的快速改变。初时有人以为是不同的物种，但事实上是相同的物种。生物学家对此仍存疑问。渐进理论毕竟是生物学重要的一环，而当蜂鸟的进化速度可以非常快时，就叫人非常的惊讶了。达尔文的蜂鸟显性特征会循环出现，而这个变化会有一定的限制，因此某几年你会见到大啄蜂鸟，这视乎食户环境，而有某几年你就会看到同一物种的蜂鸟啄部变薄。
达尔文的理论主张，在一段漫长的时间里渐渐转变，层层渐进。不过，研究人员发现，蜂鸟的喙部有时大有时小，然而又变大。这个迅速变化的循环一代传一代，因为气候影响食物供应。达尔文看不见这个循环，他在1835年底登上岛屿，但只逗留了5个星期。那么，因着物竞天择原则而做出适应，是否能等同达尔文思想的进化呢？
Okay, let me summarize the video for you. Okay. So basically, it says scientists have observed that the changes in the beak shapes of these finches happens in cycles within a much shorter time as Darwin thought. You know, within maybe 1 year, in the same place, the finches, you know, between different generations of finches, their beaks may become bigger, and their kids, their baby birds' beaks become smaller, maybe just within 1 year. You see what I mean? And it happens in cycle. This generation of finches have bigger beaks, and the next year, their children will have smaller beaks. And then on the third year, they'll come back. Their grandchildren will have bigger beaks. So it's not an evolution like random evolution that takes a long time to acquire new genetic information and new functions. So this is actually this phenomena points more to the fact that these generations of finches all use the same pool of genetic information. You know, but some genetic information is excessive and some are hidden. You know, when it's expressive or excessive, what? You will see, for example, the bigger beaks. Let's move on. Let's move on to to this. Making of different beaks shapes of ground finches. This is exactly what I said. Let me explain to you. Let's assume that the beak shape is controlled by a pair of TT genes, big T and small t, right? The big T is for what? Bigger beak. The small t is for small beak, right? Now these are two finches on the top. These are two parent finches that carry the big T plus small t genes and have medium-sized beaks, right? It's not too big, it's not too small. So when you have one big T and one small T, it's mid-size beak shape. When you have two big T's, what is that? Two big T's is big mouth or beak shape. Two small T's is what? Small, yeah, smaller beak, okay? So these two parent finches now have baby finches. The first baby finch inherits a small T from mom and a small T from dad. So this first baby finch now has what? What kind of beak? Small, because it has two small T's of small T genes, right? Right. So the result is its beak is thinner and more delicate than his parents. The second baby, the second from from the left, inherits what? One big T and one small T from the parents. As a result, its beak is what size? Medium, yes, medium, because it has a mixture of big T and small T. Now, the third and fourth kids, they both inherit big T. So what do you think is the result? Yes, they have the biggest beak, right? Now, these four kids are different, right? In their beak shape. Now, let's say a famine occurs or a drought occurs. And in the island where they live, they can only find hard shell seeds, you know. They have to have what kind of beak to crack? A hard shell, yes. Big. So who will starve? Which one will starve? The first baby. That's why it's crossed out, right? That one dies first because it doesn't have the proper beak, the beak strong enough to crack the hard seeds. What happens to the second? Stronger, but will it survive long? No, it also dies when the famine or the drought goes on. Who survive? The parents. Let's not care about that. Probably they already died because of old age. Anyway, the last two survive. Okay, now the last two survive, and now these last two now have their babies, right? Their babies. What genes do their babies inherit? Have all big T's, right? All big T's. Okay. So this is what happened on the islands. On the islands. Now the keys are here. The keys here are: does any one of them acquire new genetic information? That is, any genetic information that never existed in finches? No, these genetic information already existed from the grandparents, right? They just pass on different gene types or gene frequencies, right? So no genetic information was required in these three generations. But there is something lost actually here. What is lost by the third generation? What is lost? Yes, the small gene. So something got lost. Nothing is new here. Nothing is acquired. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Again, we have to go back the definition that we went through many times. The theory of evolution requires random generation of new genes, structure, and functions. Ground finches do not produce these. Therefore, these finches have not evolved what mutation or variation is not evolution, because what is missing here for it to be an evolution? There is no random. There is no new genetic information. Correct? Okay, no evolution here. It's just a variation within one kind, within the same family. Okay, next question. Can natural selection produce evolution? Now, Matthew, this is your question, or this is what you are interested in, right? The role of natural selection to eliminate species that do not adapt to the environment, right? So these two finch babies die because what? Because they don't have the beak strong enough to adapt to the environment, which is dry now because of the drought, right? All the soft seeds die out because there was no water. So only the hard shell seeds can be found, and only the birds with hard beaks, strong beaks can survive. Okay, so natural selection what? Eliminates. Remember the word. They do not create. It does not create. It does not add anything. Natural selection destroys. You're right. It takes out things. It does not add things, right? Okay. So this is another famous example by Darwin, right? The giraffe story. Giraffe. Okay, giraffe. Okay, so here is the giraffe story told by the evolutionists. They had long and short necks. Years and years before, they had both long and short necks. However, those with short necks became extinct due to environmental changes. Okay, so this is how the evolutionists use natural selection. All right, let's move on. But the thing is, the question is, if you look at these pictures, giraffes can also lower their neck to get food from the ground, or from I don't know the word. Yeah. Okay. So the question is, think about it. If giraffes really had long necks, had short, if some of them really had short necks at first, then there would be many other short-necked animals living with short-necked giraffes, right? Such as zebras, wild beasts, antelopes, right? Zebras don't have long necks, right? If there was a famine, all short-necked animals would suffer, not just short-necked giraffes. But why other short-necked animals survived the famine, but only the poor short-necked giraffes died? Also, why only short-necked giraffes evolved long necks, while other short-necked animals did not develop long necks? Have you thought of these questions? Yeah. Why only the poor short-necked giraffes died? Why haven't the necks of other short-necked animals grown longer? Yes. Yes, Xiaoyue.
Because the other animals couldn't eat
A lot of animals eat leaves and grass. Okay, like zebras. Okay, here's why. Long necks require an irreducible support system. You don't just, yes, we'll explain. I know there will be scientific terms biological terms, but I'll try to explain. Okay. Look at the picture. If you look at the body of a giraffe, you'll see that a short-necked animal cannot gradually turn into a long-necked giraffe. An adult giraffe is about 6 to 8 meters long. That is how many? 20 to 24 feet long, right? Because the head and chest are far apart, right? The head is so far away from their heart. A large heart is required to pump up blood. The heart of a giraffe is very wide, about 65 centimeters, over 2 feet wide. Imagine such a big heart. They need such a big heart to pump up the blood all the way up to their brains. And it beats about 150 times per minute, which is nearly twice that of a normal person. And its blood pressure is 3 times that of an adult human. Therefore, the giraffe must also have tough blood vessels to withstand the impact of high blood pressure. Otherwise, the blood vessels would burst, yes, pop up, and the giraffe would die, of course. Also, because the giraffe often lowers its head to drink water, see, the blood pressure in the brain will be higher when its head is lowered. Such high blood pressure puts it at risk of strokes every time a giraffe lowers its head. You got it? What is a stroke? When your brain blood vessel bursts. Okay? But thank God, the giraffe's brain has a unique network of blood vessels, also called spongy tissues. These tissues can absorb blood when it lowers its head to drink water. Look at this on the right here. The spongy blood tissue, yeah, it absorbs more blood when it's lowered its head and all the blood rushes to the brain, right? Yeah. So the spongy tissues, we'll finish in 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going fast. So the spongy tissues prevents the blood vessels in the giraffe's brains from rupturing, due to high blood pressure. So a giraffe's long neck requires an irreducible support system, including a strong heart, tough blood vessels, and spongy tissues, right? Which are all indispensable at the same time, which means, can you take out one of them anytime? No. If you take out the big heart, what happens? The blood cannot reach the brain when the giraffe stands, right? If you take out If you take out the strong, tough blood vessels, what happens? They will pop. And if you take out the spongy tissues, strokes will happen. All right. So let's move on. Natural selection wouldn't have chosen a long-necked giraffe because without a strong blood supplying system, giraffes will pass out. Okay. So none of these can be taken out. Okay. Missing any of them will put the giraffe at a very, very high risk of being eliminated by the natural selection. Okay, so only when a long neck, a powerful heart, tough blood vessels, and spongy tissues appear at the same time and matched each other would this animal be preserved by natural selection. So natural selection is not evolution, right? Right? So how can these things, long neck, powerful heart, tough blood vessels, and spongy tissues happen at the same time? Remember the definition of evolution? Random. Spontaneously, no one designed it, no one takes care of it, it just happens by itself. How can these things happen together randomly? They have to happen at the same time, right? Okay, it's impossible. It's impossible. Because let alone these complicated, organs, tissues, even at the basic level, the protein with a specific function cannot be created by random chance, right? So this is I think it's a picture of the spongy tissue we talked about. Very complicated, very complicated. So for the spongy tissues to appear by chance from scratch, at least a few new genes would have to be produced. And at least a dozen genes would need to be changed to make a short neck longer. So it's a very, very complicated, structure, which cannot appear by randomly. So what do they say? They say, we have not evolved. And natural selection is not evolution because in the natural selection, we would be eliminated if we were not created with all these things we talked about. If God did not put the strong heart, the strong blood vessels, the spongy tissues, and the long neck together at the same time, we would have been eliminated by the natural selection because we wouldn't be able to adapt to the environment, right? Okay. Actually, I still have, I think, 25 slides, but let's stop here. Let's do it next time. But any questions? Yes, it's a lot of information, I know. Yes.
Okay.
Short-necked giraffes, they never existed.
Oh.
That's the thing. Because there was no fossil. There was no fossil of short-necked giraffes ever found. But in order to support the evolutionary theory, those theorists invented short-necked giraffes and say, they existed, but because they couldn't adapt to the environment, they died out. But would we have just proved that they could not have existed? Because the long-necked giraffes must have existed with all the parts as they have today together to begin with. Otherwise, they would have died. If they missed a big heart, they would have died. If they missed the spongy tissue, they would have died. You got it? Got it? It's called irreducible system. You cannot take out any part of it. If you take it out, the whole system collapses. Right? Yeah, I know. It takes time. We'll repeat it. This logic will be repeated again and again. And it's supported by archaeological discoveries. As I said, there is no fossil of short-necked giraffe ever found. Okay, all right. 并且帮我们做一个祷告，好吧？结束祷告。